To all my spiritual friends and fearless explorers on the spiritual path, quit taking the bait. What I have to say might sting a little bit, but stay with me for a second and keep your mind and your heart open and just consider what I have to share with you here today. If you're like me, you came here to expose and rise above the smoke and mirror tactics, the parlor tricks of 3D illusion, not succumb to them. You came here to see these parlor tricks of the divide and conquer timelines and transmute that energy back into infinite possibility, not play a pawn in them. And we are in one motherfucker of a divide and conquer timeline. We have definitely been in it since 2020, but even earlier than that. There's a powerful energy structure at work here in this 3D timeline of perceived separation, and it's a tool, part of the mechanism that maintains the actual structure of separation, so a divide and conquer timeline can work, where people are constantly picking sides and at odds with each other. Energy pendulums. Have you heard of them? Well, they're invisible energetic structures that arise whenever groups of people focus on the same thought, belief, or emotional charge. This concept is explored in depth by a man named Vadim Zeland in his book Reality Transurfing, and I'll link to it in the description of this video. He wasn't the first to discover energy pendulums and how they function, but his explanation might be the best you'll find. But I hope to condense that here and give you real-world examples of what it looks like. So think of a pendulum in physics. You know, once it starts swinging, it doesn't stop until energy continues to be fed into it, or it stops being fed into it until the energy stops being fed. So in the same way, energetic pendulums are fed by human attention and emotion. They have no life of their own. But once created, they act almost like independent entities. Their only goal is survival and growth, and they achieve this by keeping people locked down in consciousness, in repetitive patterns of thought and emotional reactivity. Are you getting where I'm going with this? In this dumpster fire that we call 2025? The mental and emotional mechanics of how they work are fairly simple. Through mental energy, every time a thought is repeated or shared by many, it strengthens the pendulum. The pendulum attracts similar thoughts into the minds of individuals, reinforcing belief systems or polarized positions. It uses identification. So once someone says, "This is who I am because of this thought," they are effectively attaching themselves to the pendulum through emotional structures, feelings. Pendulums don't just want mental agreement. They thrive on strong emotions. Hot, heated debate, both positive and negative. Anger, fear, outrage, righteousness, fervent support, all generate the energy that pendulums consume. The pendulum is not creative, it is consumptive. It takes. It doesn't give. The pendulum doesn't care which side you're on. What matters is that you are emotionally invested. In this constant feedback loop, thoughts spark feelings. Feelings trigger more thoughts. Together they form a cycle that perpetuates the pendulum. And once inside this loop, it's kind of hard to see your way out. Individuals often mistake the pendulum's agenda for their own authentic will. And we can get into a whole conversation about free will here, but maybe that's another video. But are you starting to see what this looks like in today's divide and conquer timeline? We're living in a period where collective pendulums are everywhere. Politics left versus right, conservative versus progressive. Each side is convinced it fights for truth and justice, but both sides, by pouring outrage, fear, or hatred into the system, feed the same overarching pendulum of division. In health narratives, pro versus anti-anything, masks, vaccines, alternative medicine versus mainstream science, the pendulum grows stronger every time people attack, defend, hold contempt for, or attempt to convert others. Social media outrage cycles. Man, it was all over my feed yesterday. Hashtag wars, potential sacrificial lambs for a wannabe fascist regime, celebrity scandals, mass boycotts. These pendulums thrive on viral emotion. People rarely pause in those moments of outrage to ask if their reaction is self-chosen or a pull from the pendulum. And the list goes on. In all these examples, the common pattern is emotional polarization. The pendulum thrives on it. And the pendulum doesn't require unity, it requires sides. Divide and conquer works perfectly for pendulums because conflict guarantees a continuous flow of emotional energy. And here's where we are in a nutshell. You don't have to believe anything I say here. But consider it, is all I ask. Consider the possibility that you are an infinite creator with nothing but eternity on your hands, temporarily playing with contrast. You can witness it all when you go into pure presence. You can witness all of it compassionately and with an open heart. And from a conscious choice in presence, withdraw your powerful creative energy from the impulse to take sides. While at the same time, because you're an infinite creator capable of anything, you can still be investing your energy towards what you prefer to experience. Do you want to know how to withdraw your energy? Because at this point, if you're still listening, I'm speaking to an infinite creator who knows he or she is an infinite creator. So let's take this deeper. Let's go into application in a very practical, gritty, everyday, hands-on, real-world way. Pendulums only live as long as you feed them. Divesting your energy is not about fighting the pendulum. Resistance still feeds it. Instead, it is about removing the emotional charge and reclaiming neutrality. In this, awareness is key. Where do you have pure, perfect awareness? When you breathe and go into presence. Conscious breathing equals conscious presence equals full, infinite creator awareness, the divine witness, the God self. And when you can do that, and you realize that you are wielding the tool of awareness, you recognize when a strong emotional reaction might not be yours, but a pull from the pendulum. And in that moment you ask, am I choosing this thought? Or am I caught in someone else's swing here? Now hold up for a second. This decision to claim neutrality, it's not the same as apathy. It's not indifference. Indifference means you choose not to add emotional weight. I mean, to say apathy is not the same as indifference. Those are two different things. Indifference is neutrality. You choose not to add emotional weight or a push or a pull to the pendulum. This means you can still act wisely and compassionately, but without giving the pendulum the charge that it seeks. So instead of battling within the pendulum's framework, you step outside it. So for example, instead of fighting for or against a political narrative, you create your own path of contribution that isn't trapped in their polarity. And hello, if we haven't met, this is why you won't see me waging a war of words on my social media feed. aiding and abetting the back and forth, the he said, she said, and why. Instead, I'm nourishing, I'm cultivating everything I do and everything I am, because those two things are not separated from me at this point. What I do is a natural flow of who I am. And who I am is someone who nourishes and cultivates and shares the lived-in wisdom about how I live this way. And you can too. Everything I do in my work is an extension of this lived-in wisdom that I'm sharing with you and how to do it right now. So you must do this. You must have this kind of neutrality, regardless of outer circumstances and despite what you're supposed to be outraged about. Because if you're a spiritual fuck like me, you place your attention on creation, inspiration, innovation, and genuine connection. That's why I'm here. I'm here for only that. Maybe you are too. So pendulums, they wither when people withdraw energy and start invest in building their own realities. This is what I've been doing for a long time now. And I'm just getting better and better at it all the time. I know this, I've felt it, I've seen it, and how it works. So as an example, in 2020, when I used to have groups on Facebook, I organized an online summit. An online summit that was right in the wake of all the COVID shutdowns across the globe, amidst all the anger, fear, frustration, and doubt that came with it. And the focus of myself and dozens of presenters who are willing to participate for free in this group. The focus was on building the world we want to live in and how to do exactly that. And everyone was coming from their particular focus and area of expertise to share what works. And guess what? Amidst all that anger, fear, frustration, and doubt that was going on, we built connection. We built trust in humanity again with everyone who attended, and there were hundreds of people who attended. Close to 1,000 people in those 3 days together. It was beautiful. So there's always a bigger picture here, my friends, whether you choose to see it or not. And when we're stuck in the he said, she said, choosing sides, we usually don't see it. If emotions run high and hot, it's practically a guarantee you won't see it. Nobody will. And that's exactly how loops continue. That's how history is on repeat over and over again. So here, just in this last push here, get present, breathe. Come back to your truth as an infinite creator. And let's take this a little deeper. No matter how buried it is under your outrage and your maybe disdain for humanity right now, underneath that is the truth. Get to that. Breathe. Get present. Okay. Pendulums are neither good nor bad. They're neutral energetic structures at the heart of them. They're part of this 3D experience, the machinery needed to perpetuate the illusion of separation so that this illusion of separation can function. It's just part of the mechanism of contrast we all came here to play with as infinite creators having a temporary experience. Some pendulums, like communities that are devoted to art, communities that are devoting to uplifting humanity, to healing, to learning, they can be constructive, right? So those are pendulums too. When a lot of energy, attention, thought, focus goes towards that. But the challenge arises when pendulums manipulate through fear and division. Welcome to 2025, right? In today's divide and conquer script, pendulums act like invisible puppet masters, keeping humanity fractured, at odds. When enough individuals disengage and redirect their energy towards creative, life-giving pursuits, life-affirming enterprises, pendulums lose power. The swing slows. The control dissolves. In short, pendulums are the hidden mechanics of mass influence. They survive only by harvesting attention and emotion. You want to free yourself? Then you must notice when you're feeling them and learn to consciously opt out and then choose again where your energy goes. You want to see a world that favors and nourishes peace, equality, egalitarianism? Then feed that pendulum every day, because that's a pendulum too. Want to experience more joy, creativity, beauty, connection, and kindness? Feed that pendulum every damn day, no matter what the outside world is showing you. Yeah, no matter what. And some of you are hearing this and maybe you're thinking, okay, this is spiritual bypassing, this Pollyanna garbage and hogwash. And I say to you, oh really? Or is it so radical and simple at the same time that most people have and will dismiss it outright, believing it could never work? Well, truth is, we haven't tried it collectively. Some of us are living in it personally every day. That's me. And many people like me. But collectively, we still resist. We still push back. And guess what we get? More resistance and more pushback. One side fighting another throughout the timelines of history, believing in the manufactured mental construct of winners and losers. This resistance feeds the swing of the pendulum towards more of exactly what you don't want, what most of humanity doesn't want. But we're ignorant of how these pendulums work. But lucky you, not anymore. At best, when we're in the resistance, we're fighting the good fight, another mental construct, we experience a temporary reset and maybe a short-term shift of the pendulum this way and how it swings. But long-term change and an overall shift in human consciousness towards human expansion, that remains elusive to us in these old loops. So try this instead. Instead of battling with the pendulum's framework, step outside of it. Become aware of it, and when it's working, and when it's pulling you in. For example, instead of fighting for or against a political narrative, create your own path of contribution that isn't trapped in their polarity. Try placing your attention on creation, inspiration, and genuine connection. And when I say genuine connection, I'm not talking about commiserating with a bunch of people about everything that's going wrong. That is a mistaken sense of connection. And it's just you offering up yourself as a sacrificial lamb to a pendulum. Pendulums wither when people withdraw their energy and invest in building their own realities. That's exactly what shifts the pendulum swing. It's an inside job, not an outer battle. And so with that, I'm going to say peace out. And I have included in the comments of this video, or in the description of this video, a class discussion I did a few years ago about pendulums. This is from one of my old programs. So if you're curious about taking a deeper dive into how they work, how doubt and pendulums work, specifically that's the topic of discussion for this class, I put it in the description as a Dropbox link in this video. And if you love this content, if this speaks to you, please let me know by subscribing. Let me know by commenting. It helps my channel. It helps the algorithm to get to people just like you who feel enriched by this content. And so really deepen into this one. Listen to it a few times, come back to it, especially in those moments where you feel that polarization at an all-time high, you feel that resistance and pushback at an all-time high. It's a good time to come back here and remind your human what your soul already knows. So I want to thank you for listening. Lots of love and peace. Bye for now.